Metal groaned, sparks flew, and alarms blared in Captain Riker Vaughn's cockpit as his ship spiraled toward the planet's surface. Smoke filled the cabin. He yanked the control stick, but it was no use. Gravity had already made up its mind. Ah, hell! This is gonna hurt. The night wind slammed into the surface, skidding across what looked like smooth, ancient stone, until, boom, he crashed through a massive golden archway, tearing straight into an underground chamber. Dust and debris filled the air. Everything went still. Riker coughed, unbuckled, and kicked open the emergency hatch. His boots crunched against the polished floor as he surveyed the damage. He'd definitely wrecked something important. The chamber was massive, pillars adorned with cosmic murals, glowing symbols pulsing faintly. At its center, a colossal stone dais stood, cracked where his ship had violently introduced itself. This place looks expensive. Before he could process further, a deep, feminine sigh echoed through the room. Riker turned, heart hammering. A tall, radiant woman lay sprawled across the dais, her golden skin shimmering as if stars lived beneath the surface. Her flowing obsidian hair floated as if caught in zero gravity. She blinked, then inhaled sharply, her chest rising in a way that demanded attention. A very slow, very pleased smile spread across her lips. "You came for me." Riker blinked. She sat up, stretching, her body moving with deliberate grace. "For 10,000 years I slumbered. Waiting. Hoping. And now..." Her glowing eyes locked onto him, full of anticipation. "You arrived. In such a spectacular manner." Riker took a careful step back. "Okay, first off, I did not mean to arrive. That was a total accident. Second, you fell from the heavens to awaken me. You crashed into my chamber with such force." Her voice turned husky. "I felt it, everywhere." Riker choked. "Hold on." The goddess rose, easily 10 feet tall, draped in something so sheer it barely counted as clothing. She stepped forward, each movement slow, deliberate, predatory. "I am Zathra, celestial guardian of the eternal sleep. And you..." She reached out, fingertips grazing his very mortal, very breakable chest. "You have come to claim what is yours." Riker mentally blue-screened. "Claim?" She exhaled. "Yes. I think there's been a tiny misunderstanding here." Her smile deepened, amusement flickering in her eyes. "Do not be coy. You broke the seal of slumber. Only a worthy mate could have done so." Riker threw up his hands. "I swear I wasn't trying to break anything. It was a hard landing." Zathra tilted her head. "A hard landing," he groaned. "Not that kind of hard." But it was too late. Zathra's entire aura shifted. "The scriptures foretold that one of great power would descend upon me," she murmured, stepping even closer. "That he would thrust through the barriers of eternity and awaken my celestial hunger." Riker was dying inside. "Okay, listen, Your High Holiness, let's backtrack." Zathra sighed, rolling her shoulders. "It has been so long since I have felt warmth. A touch. And now you arrive, and with such forceful impact." Riker squeezed his eyes shut. He needed an escape plan. Fast. Before he could bolt, a second deep sigh rumbled through the chamber. Oh no. A second figure stirred on the dais. Another towering celestial woman, this one with silver skin that shimmered like stardust. Her pale hair cascaded in glowing waves, framing a face of immediate, dangerous curiosity. She stretched, arching her back, her form flexing in ways that should have been illegal. Who disturbs my slumber?" Zathra smirked. "Our awakener." The silver-skinned goddess gaze landed on Riker. Slowly, her lips curled into a knowing smile. My, she purred. "He looks sturdy." Riker took a step back. "Oh, for foo." She sat up, crossing one luminous leg over the other, evaluating him like a freshly served feast. Zathra gestured toward him, her tone laced with amusement. "He insists his landing was accidental." The silver goddess' brows lifted. "Oh? Then why does he radiate such intensity? Riker pinched the bridge of his nose. Because I just survived a near-death experience, not whatever this is turning into. The silver goddess chuckled, tapping a single finger to her lips. If he were unworthy, the temple would not have accepted him. Exactly. Zathra smiled victoriously. Riker threw up his hands. What do you mean accepted? I crashed through the roof. Zathra's smile didn't waver. With perfect precision. Straight into the sacred heart of the chamber. Because gravity. Silver Goddess rose gracefully, eyes glowing with something dangerous. I am Tyrus, keeper of the starfire. And you, mortal, have awakened too of the eternal slumber. Great. Fantastic. Look, I'll just leave you two to whatever celestial stretching routine you had going. Both goddesses stepped forward. Oh no, Awakener, Tyrus murmured. You have stirred us from a 10,000-year void. You will not simply walk away. Riker's brain screamed in alarm. Zathra placed a palm to his chest, and suddenly, his entire body vibrated with energy. You have set things in motion, mortal. Now you must see them through. Riker gulped. Define things. Tyrus grinned. The ritual of bonding, of course. A long pause. You know, you might want to check your translations, because that sounds suspicious as hell. Zathra tilted her head. Why? Do humans not prepare themselves before sacred unions? Riker rubbed his temples. Oh, we prepare, all right. Just different preparation. Tyrus' eyes flashed. Then we shall begin immediately. Riker took one final look at their towering, cosmic forms and made the only logical decision. He ran. But before he even reached the exit, the chamber doors slammed shut. Zathra's voice echoed across the hall. There is no escape, mortal. A beat. Riker sighed. Of course there isn't. Tyrus smirked. Your journey has only just begun. Riker groaned. I am so screwed. Tyrus' smile widened. Not yet. Riker backed himself into a corner, hands up, trying to keep a safe distance from two celestial goddesses who clearly had no concept of personal space or reasonable expectations. His ship was toast, the exit was sealed, and now he was being evaluated like a prize stallion at an intergalactic auction. Tyrus circled him, eyes gleaming with barely contained amusement. Look at him, Zathra. Small but durable. Riker gritted his teeth. I'm standing right here, you know. Zathra ran a slow finger down his arm, and a shock of golden energy surged through him. His knees nearly buckled. His resilience is impressive. The first male to withstand direct celestial contact without collapsing. It is fascinating. Tyrus smirked. Fascinating and arousing. Riker nearly choked. All right, I need you both to get a grip. Zathra let out a hum of amusement. Do not worry. The rites will help with that. He groaned. That's not what I meant. Before he could protest further, a deep rumbling echoed through the chamber. The pillars flared to life, casting eerie shadows as more of the temple awoke. Riker tensed. That's not normal, is it? Tyrus smirked. It means the others are stirring. Riker's gut dropped. The others? A low, sultry chuckle filled the chamber. From the deeper shadows, 3 more figures stepped forward, each one tall, radiant, and distinctly dangerous. The first had glacial blue skin and hair that flowed like liquid silver. She moved with graceful precision, her violet eyes sharp with intellect and unspoken mischief. The second was brown-skinned, her physique impossibly sculpted, her every step radiating dominance. Her dark gold gaze settled on Riker, narrowing as if she were assessing prey. The third had rosy gold hues and an otherworldly glow, her features softer, more curious than predatory, but no less overwhelming. Riker groaned. I'm so dead. The blue-skinned one smirked. He speaks. How delightful. Zathra gestured toward him proudly. Meet the one who woke us. The bronze goddess crossed her arms, unimpressed. That tiny thing? Riker held up a hand. Still standing right here. The rosy gold one stepped closer, examining him like he was some rare specimen. His form is so soft. Is he even real? Tyrus grinned. Oh, he is real. And full of surprises. Riker sighed. None of them good, I promise. The blue-skinned goddess finally introduced herself. I am Mirius, keeper of knowledge. The bronze one tilted her head. I am Calith, warden of strength. The rosy gold one smiled. And I am Liara, guardian of harmony. Riker exhaled. Cool. Fantastic. Now that introductions are over, I'll just... Calith's golden eyes flashed. Not so fast, mortal. You crashed into our sacred temple, shattered the eternal slumber, and now bear responsibility. He groaned. Why does everyone keep saying responsibility like it's a good thing? Mirius smirked. Because it is. Riker pointed at himself. Look, I'm just some guy. I didn't mean to wake you up. Calith rolled her shoulders, muscles flexing. Intent does not matter. Your actions do. And now you must prove your worth. Riker froze. Prove? Zathra's smile widened. You shall undergo the trials of awakening. His stomach dropped. That sounds ominous. Liara tilted her head. It is merely our way of assessing compatibility. He blinked. Wait, what kind of compatibility? Tyrus purred. Endurance. Stamina. Adaptability. How well you can handle divine pressure. Riker nearly collapsed. Okay, you have to hear how that sounds. Calith cracked her knuckles. Enough delay. Let the first trial begin. He took one step back before suddenly vanishing in a golden flash. A beat. A sudden, sharp splash. Riker surfaced, coughing violently. He was chest deep in a glowing, golden pool, the water warm and tingling against his skin. Across from him, Zathra, Mirius, and Liara stood at the water's edge, watching expectantly. He wiped water from his face. Are we just throwing people into trials now? Mirius chuckled. The trial of endurance begins. You must last as long as possible within the celestial spring. He frowned. That's it? Just sit here? Zathra's lips curled. Indeed. A beat. Riker narrowed his eyes. What's the catch? Liara smiled sweetly. None at all. That was a lie. Within seconds, the water began to pulse. Strange ripples formed, sending waves of warmth through his body. Then it got worse. His muscles relaxed unnaturally, a deep, buzzing sensation flooding his limbs. He tried to stand, but his knees buckled. Riker sucked in a sharp breath. Okay, hold up, what is this water? Mirius observed him curiously. A natural celestial stimulant. His eye twitched. Define stimulant. Tyrus appeared on the pool's edge, grinning down at him. It is said that prolonged exposure heightens one's sensitivity. Riker froze. Wait, what? Then the water pulsed again. And everything changed. His entire body jolted, the warmth sharpening into something dangerously unfamiliar. He clenched his jaw, fingers twitching against the overwhelming sensation. The goddesses watched. Waiting. Testing. Riker's breathing turned shaky. This is the worst trial in existence. Tyrus grinned. You last remarkably well. He groaned through his teeth. Why does everyone keep phrasing things like that? Zathra smirked. We simply observe. The water pulsed harder. He bit back a noise, muscles tensing against the unbearable feeling. This wasn't a test. This was torture. Mirius raised a brow. Fascinating. His reactions are quite restrained. Liara smiled. How long do you think he can last? Riker sucked in a sharp breath. I hate every single one of you. Calith's voice boomed. Enough. He has lasted long enough. A golden flash and the pool disappeared. Riker collapsed onto solid ground, panting. His entire body still hummed. Calith nodded approvingly. He did not falter. Zathra grinned. Promising. Riker groaned into the floor. I'm gonna die here. Mirius smirked. Perhaps. But first, the next trial. Riker screamed into his hands. Riker barely had time to catch his breath before he was yanked upright by an unseen force, his limbs still twitching from the last trial. His body felt betrayed, buzzing in ways he didn't want to acknowledge. Tyrus smirked. You did well, little mortal. But endurance alone does not make one worthy. Riker groaned. Oh great. Here comes the next round of torture disguised as a trial. Kalith cracked her knuckles. You must now face the trial of power. His stomach dropped. That sounds unnecessarily aggressive. Kalitha's golden eyes gleamed. A warrior must prove their strength and skill. Riker grimaced. A small problem, I'm not a warrior. Tyrus grinned. That is what makes this interesting. Before he could argue, a sharp gust of energy surrounded him, lifting him into a vast open arena. The ground beneath him solidified into polished onyx stone, and high above, the 5 goddesses watched from celestial thrones. A low, reverberating chime filled the space. Kayla stood across from him, her towering bronze form radiating dominance. She rolled her shoulders, muscles flexing, then slammed a foot into the ground, sending a shockwave through the arena. Riker stumbled. Okay, hold on. Let's just talk this through like rational. Kalith lunged. A blur of movement. Riker barely dodged before her fist cratered the spot where he'd been standing. He yelped. Are you trying to kill me? Kalith smirked. You are durable. Let us see how well you move. He sprinted the other way. No thank you. The goddesses above laughed. Tyrus called down, mocking amusement in her tone. Running already? Is this how mortals fight? Riker dodged another devastating punch, rolling to his feet. Oh, I'm sorry, were you expecting me to throw hands with a celestial war goddess? Kalis stalked toward him. The strong do not run. Riker glanced around. He had no weapons, no armor, no backup. Just himself. His brain scrambled for solutions. Then it hit him. All right. He exhaled, straightening up. Fine. Let's fight. Kalith grinned. That is more like it. He raised his fists. She charged. At the last possible second, he sidestepped, causing Kalitha's momentum to carry her forward. Her fist slammed into the arena wall, shattering a chunk of it. The goddesses gasped. Kalith whirled around, startled. Riker smirked. Whoops. That looked expensive. She narrowed her eyes. A trickster's tactic. He shrugged. Survival's a tactic. The fight resumed. Except now. Riker wasn't running. He was dodging, feinting, using the environment. Letting Kalitha's own aggression work against her. Each time she swung, he barely evaded, making her overextend. Each time she charged, he used the arena's shifting terrain to throw her off balance. The other goddesses watched with increasing intrigue. Mirius leaned forward. He adapts quickly? Liara nodded. And he thinks rather than brute forces his way through. Zathra smirked. Clever little thing. Tyrus chuckled. But can he win? Riker was wondering the same thing. He was dodging, sure, but Kalith was getting angrier. And angry war goddesses were not ideal opponents. She lunged one last time. Riker acted on impulse. Instead of dodging, he dropped low, twisted his body, and swept her legs out from under her. Kalitha's balance broke. For the first time in eons, the war goddess of strength hit the ground. Hard. A dead silence followed. The goddesses stared. Kalith, flat on her back, blinked up at the mortal who had just bested her. Riker stood over her, panting. I won! A tense pause. Then Kalith laughed. It was low, rich, and slightly impressed. She pushed herself up, golden eyes gleaming. You are more than you seem, human. Riker exhaled. I get that a lot. The arena dissolved, returning them to the temple chamber. Kalith clapped him once on the back, hard. He stumbled forward. Ow, does no one understand moderate strength? Zathra smirked. Your victory is acknowledged. You pass. Riker sagged with relief. Oh, thank God. Tyrus grinned. Not yet, mortal. The trials are not over. His heart sank. You have to be kidding. Liara smiled. You have one more to complete. Riker groaned into his hands. Mirias tilted her head. You do not wish to know what it is? No, he grumbled. Because it's never good news. Tyrus laughed. Perhaps. But this next one will be your greatest challenge. Riker sighed. Fine. Just hit me with it. Zathra stepped forward. The trial of submission. A long silence. Riker's entire body locked up. I'm sorry, what? Tyrus smirked. You heard her. Kalith grinned. This one will be fun. He took a step back. I think I just heard my ship calling me. Zathra's eyes glowed. You cannot escape fate, mortal. Tyrus crossed her arms. You are strong, cunning, adaptable. But are you willing to yield? Riker's brain short-circuited. Define yield. Liara smiled. It is not what you think. Riker didn't believe that for a second. Zathra lifted a hand. Come, mortal. Prove yourself. Riker sighed the deepest sigh of his life. I hate everything about this. Mirias smirked. And yet, here you are. The goddesses surrounded him. The final trial was beginning. And for the first time since he crashed here. Riker was genuinely terrified. Riker stood frozen, trapped in a circle of celestial women who all looked like they were waiting for him to submit, whatever that meant. His instincts screamed run, but experience told him it was pointless. Zathra stepped closer, her golden energy wrapping around him, and he fought the urge to shiver. You have proven strength, endurance, and wit, she purred. But now, we test your ability to surrender. Riker's brows shot up. Yeah, that sounds like a hard no. Tyrus grinned. Oh? Are humans incapable of yielding? Kalith crossed her arms. A warrior must know when to stand and when to kneel. His brain short-circuited. Again. You have to hear how that sounds. Zathra ignored him. The trial of submission is simple. You must release all resistance. Relinquish control. Riker's pulse spiked. Yeah, see, that's exactly the opposite of how humans survive. Liara smiled. Survival is not the test here. He groaned. I swear, every time you explain things, it somehow gets worse. Mirias chuckled. You misunderstand. This is a test of trust. Riker blinked. Come again? Zathra tilted her head. Surrender does not mean weakness, mortal. It means trust. To give yourself willingly, without fear. To allow another to guide you. Riker stared. Then laughed. Hard. The goddesses blinked in confusion. You think I have trust issues? He wheezed. Lady, I fly through space at ridiculous speeds in a tin can held together by duct tape and prayers. I put my life in the hands of technology every day. Trust isn't the issue, surviving bad decisions is. Kalith nodded. Then you should have no problem surrendering to us. Riker held up a hand. Okay, but surrender to what exactly? Tyrus smirked. You will see. A golden glow surrounded him, lifting him off his feet. He flailed. Wait, I didn't agree. Zathra's power pulsed. The next moment, he was floating in weightless space, the goddesses circling him like celestial titans. Then the energy hit. A warm, all-consuming pulse flooded his body, like he was being wrapped in 1,000 layers of energy, pressing into every nerve. His entire body locked up. What the hell is this? Liara's voice was soft. Let go. Riker gritted his teeth. His every instinct screamed to fight. The energy was overwhelming, crushing. Zathra's voice whispered in his ear. You must trust us. He tried to move. He couldn't. Tried to resist, nothing. The pressure held him completely. And that's when the panic kicked in. He wasn't used to not fighting, not resisting, not having control. He'd always been in control. Even when things went to hell, he had an out. Here? There was no out. His chest tightened. His mind screamed. His breath hitched. Then Miriam spoke. You cannot win this through struggle. You must choose to let go. He hated this. Everything in him fought the very idea. But deep down, he knew he wasn't breaking free. So, against every stubborn impulse, he exhaled, stopped struggling, and let go. The moment he did, the energy shifted. The weight eased. The crushing sensation melted into warmth. A slow, powerful pulse filled him, like he was syncing with something vast, ancient, immeasurable. The goddesses watched, waiting. He took a deep breath. For the first time since he'd crashed, he wasn't panicking. Zathra smiled. Good. The energy slowly faded, lowering him back to solid ground. His legs barely held him. He stared at them, dazed. That was. Tyrus smirked. A lesson. Zathra stepped forward. You have passed all trials, mortal. Strength, endurance, cunning, and now trust. Calith grinned. Few beings, mortal or otherwise, could endure such tests. Liara touched his shoulder, a gentle pulse of warmth spreading. You are unique. Riker let out a half-crazed laugh. Great. Fantastic. Can I leave now? Zathra's smile didn't fade. You misunderstand, Riker Vaughn. He froze. Oh no. Tyrus grinned. You are the first in 10,000 years to awaken us. Calith crossed her arms. The first to pass our trials. Liara's eyes gleamed. You cannot simply walk away. Riker's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Zathra smirked. You belong to us now. Silence. Riker stared. Then ran for his life. The goddesses laughed as he sprinted toward his wrecked ship. He didn't make it. A flash of golden light. Then everything vanished. Elsewhere, in deep space, a human fleet picked up a distress beacon. The signal was garbled, but clear enough to understand. An engineer frowned. Admiral? We got a weird transmission. The Admiral sighed. Let's hear it. Static crackled. Then, help. Trapped with superpowered alien women. Send backup. Or a lawyer. Or both. Silence. The entire bridge crew turned. The Admiral blinked. Then sighed. Get me a drink.